Hi guys, this is Himanshu Rout and I'm currently working as a system engineer in Online Teleservices Private Limited. For the past 3 years I'm working in this company, and for the past 3.5 years I'm into this IT field. Uh, Within this year I have worked in variety of projects and softwares. So within these years of 3 years I have gained a lot of experience on a lot of complex projects I've worked on. So I have gained a lot of experience which I'm gonna share with you people. And since we will be having our training on web app development exactly. So say web app application, mainly it has two parts. Its architecture is designed such a way that one is client and another one is server. So the client makes a request to server for, say, for a particular page or for a particular file, and the server, there exists a server software, so it handles the request and gives the result back. Whatever the requested result, it gives back to the client. So mainly two types of scripting involved in this, programming. One is client side programming and another is server side programming. So what do you mean by client side and server side programming? Client side programming means the scripts that program that runs on the client machine or the requesting machine, that is known as client side scripting. And server side scripting, the program or the script that runs on server side, on server machine, that is server side scripting. So what is the what is the difference between these two scripting methods? Since client side scripting, it runs on client machine, the requesting machine, so it's obviously faster since it runs on that machine, the requesting machine. So it is faster, and comparatively, if we compare this thing speed with server side scripting, it's comparatively slower, since the user has to make a request and has to wait for the result to come. So the time that is the the time that it takes, say from the request goes to the server and comes back, that time adds to the the time that it takes, say from the request goes to the server and comes back, that time adds to the this time adds up. So it's a bit slow as compared when we get to the speed. And next comes to for security. If we'll come in terms of security, client side scripting is less secure, since the client, or say in particular the browser, has access to the codes that executes on the machine. So it's less secure. And in server side scripting, the code resides in the server, it executes in the server, so the user or the client never knows what's there in the code. So in this way, server side scripting is secure compared to client side scripting. Okay, next we'll discuss about the basic building blocks of web apps. So with client side scripting, the basic building blocks include HTML, CSS and JavaScript. These three mainly contribute to the client side programming. And for server side programming, we have a lot of options as server side programming technologies available, like JSP, ASP.NET, PHP, Node.js, a lot of things are available. So first of all, we will be discussing the building blocks of client side programming. These are HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So first we'll start with HTML. So what is HTML? Why it is used now? What is HTML exactly? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and mainly its HTML is used for presentation. So if we'll say what is the main usage of HTML, CSS and JavaScript, we can say HTML is for presentation, and CSS is for styling, for beautifying that presentation, and JavaScript is for making the presentation dynamic. So these three things mainly contribute to the client side scripting. If we go deep into the HTML, so it has its own structure. You have to write it within say HTML. You have tags for that. You will write HTML. Then inside that you have head. Head. After that you have body. So it follows a particular structure. And in that, whenever you will write programs, you will find you will have two types of the content will include two things. One, you will have some angle bracket, something written within an angle bracket, and some other thing plain text. So the things that is written in angle brackets, these are known as tags. So what do you mean by tags actually? Tags are metadata about content. So again, what do you mean by metadata? Metadata is for to define structure to that data. I mean, the whatever comes next, this is the data for. So it defines the structure, how it will. I mean, let's say if you go for a say anchor tag, you are having anchor tag. So something you write on inside that. So that tag defines how the content will appear in the browser or how that will appear to the client. So you will have a structure, and you will be once we move on, we'll be writing say programs, HTML programs, and you can see what are tags and what are their contents actually. And regarding tags, you have a variety of tags that perform their corresponding tasks. So you have for heading, you have some tags, say h1, h2, h3 up to h6 for tags, and you have tags for anchor to to present some link. You have list, ULLI, OLLI, say unorder list and order list. And for tables, you have options table, TRT, these things are there. Once we get to the practical and once we write programs, you can see all these things. And the most important part in HTML, the tags, is the form tag. So form tag, this form is available in HTML to take inputs from the user. It has certain elements, text elements, button elements, select, drop down list. So a lot of variety of elements are there, which requires, which are useful for taking inputs from the users. The client, that is who is in front of the browser, that will be inputting things. Say the user wants to input few things, so that for that form is responsible. So there is a form tag. Inside the form tag, you can put form elements. You can always run that with tables. Different lot of form elements are available. Once we get to that, we will be seeing what are their uses exactly, and why this is actually how it works. You have a form. So form is like say you can consider it like you filling up a manual form. So you will have a lot of text input fields. You are writing your name, you are writing your age, you are writing your father's name. So similarly, you will be having a form that will be displayed in a browser. So once you fill up all these things and say click on a button or say submit, so all these things goes to the server, which is somewhere in a remote location. So afterwards, the server will take the necessary action. Say it will store it somewhere or process it and return some result back. So this way it works. And a form. In one more thing, for tags, for HTML tags, you have one important thing: attributes. You have attributes in HTML tags that define some information about those tags. So in form tag, you have attributes like action, method, style. A lot of things are there. Most important in form tag, the most important attributes are action and method. So action defines, in action you put a URL of a page. So what it says, the URL you put over there, all the form data, whenever you click on submit, goes over there. So you specify a URL to which all the data that is filled up by the user gets submitted, and it exists in server. So server will handle those information that is inputted by the user. And next thing is there, action is there. Next attribute, important attributes of form tag is action, method, which has values like get and post. So it defines the way that form data gets transmitted to the server, how it gets transmitted. That is defined by the method attributes. If it's get, then all the data are attached in the browser URL, and that goes to the server so that the server is able to access those data. It actually how it goes in a key value pair. The form field names, say if you have a text box naming something txt name, so it goes like txt name its value is something this. So this way it moves on, and the server is able to access all those data and process them if required. So this is all, I mean, this is the basic things how HTML works, and how you can have design HTML forms to present in the browser. Next thing, we'll move on to the building blocks. Next building block of client-side web is CSS. CSS is mainly, as I have told already, mainly it is for beautifying or styling the presentation. HTML, using HTML you can have a normal, you can present a normal page, HTML page to a browser, but to style it, to make it beautiful, you need to apply certain styles, say, and that is done through CSS. Say if you want to make a button to look something, so you want to apply some color to a button, say some border, anything, a lot of things are available. So that is done through mainly CSS. It stands for mainly cascading style set. Cascading in the sense you can apply a lot of styles to a particular element one after another. You can set its color, you can set its background color, you can set its width, height, a lot of things. Okay, so mainly this is you can write in different ways. You can write CSS mainly 3 different ways are available. One is through inline, another one is internal or document level, and the third one being external CSS. The inline CSS, if you are going for inline CSS, these are mainly specified using a style attribute. All HTML elements have a style attribute. So using that style attribute, you can write style information for that element. Say if I'm having a paragraph, say p tag, so I want to apply some background color to that paragraph. So I'll be writing p, say style equals to, and within double quotes, background color, and the color value that the color code that I'm gonna apply to that paragraph. In this way, you can apply a lot of, you can apply the required styles for HTML text, and inline style, this is required whenever you don't need it in multiple times. You need it for a particular case or for a particular time. So you will be using this inline method. Second method that is available is internal. In internal method, you will be writing the styles for a particular page. Actually, whatever styles you specify there, it will be applicable throughout the page. Say you are writing all buttons in that page should have a background color of green, so you write it somewhere exactly in the, say, inside a style tag. You will be having a style tag. So style is a type text equals to CSS, and within that you will be writing all style information. So whatever you write over there, all those styles will be applied to the elements which are there in that particular page. So this has the advantage of inline, since you suppose you have 5 different buttons and you want to apply all buttons to a particular style. So if you are going for inline, you have to write it for each of the elements, but using internal, you can define it just once in the top, and all the buttons will access that style. So how this is defined, so you will have a style tag, and inside that you will have CSS selectors, and then you will be writing the style information. So what do you mean by CSS selectors exactly? So before applying style, you need to select the HTML elements which you want to select, apply styles to. So that is defined by the CSS selector. The CSS selector determines which elements the specified styles will be applied. Say I'm writing like this, a P, then it selects all paragraphs within the page. I'm writing div, it selects all divisions within the page. If I'm writing input type button, then it selects all buttons. So likewise, it has some advanced selectors also. As we know, all HTML elements have a property or attribute that is called ID. So that is unique for an element within a page. So if you want to select by ID, you have to write hash and followed by the particular ID of that element. So suppose I'm writing hash x, some background colors, something red, so it will apply background color red to all the elements that are there in the page having id x. Those elements having id x will be applied with that particular style. In this way you have option to apply styles for elements with a particular class name, say with a dot operator. If I am writing dot x, so it will select all elements having class name x, and if I specify styles over there, so all elements having class name x will be applied those specified styles. Okay, so in this way you can, and you have advanced CSS selectors also a lot. You can manipulate in, I mean you can select parents, childs. This is, say I'm having a button inside a division, so I want to apply styles to buttons which are inside a division. So what I will write for that, say div space input type button. So space includes within. In this way there are a lot of complex CSS selectors are there, which we'll be discussing and which we'll be exploring once we start writing programs. Okay. Next, moving on, we have the third method, that is the external CSS. So regarding external CSS, again internal CSS suffers from a criticism, is that suppose I have a website and suppose I will having some common content on all pages. Say I'm having a menu, so which looks similar in all my pages. So for that, if I'm going for internal or document level, for that I need to write all the style information in all the pages of my website. To overcome this problem, we have another option or another method of writing styles, that is external CSS. What you can do in this process is you can make a separate style sheet file and you can define styles over there, and you can include CSS file in a particular HTML file, so that all the styles specified over in the CSS file will get applied to the HTML file, in the HTML file that references or that includes that CSS file. Okay, so how do you write CSS over there in that CSS file? You will be creating a file with extension .css, and you will be writing all the style information as you are writing in document level. Say you can write, say there .x some color, hash x some color, you can write div some color, some style information. So you can apply all the styles that will be required throughout your website in a particular file, and you can consume it in any of the HTML files in your website. So this way, it gets it gets a little easy to define your styles, so that for all pages you need not to write all the style information again and again. So if we'll go for differences between these three methods, obviously it looks like the external one is more more useful, but each one has its own advantages. Like suppose you have say five different pages, and you want to highlight menus, highlight different menus in different pages. So in my home page I want to highlight home menu, in my contact page I want to highlight contact menu. So for that document level or internal level, you have to write some CSS so that it will work in that particular way. So if we will go for the priorities in these three methods, inline has the highest priority, then comes the internal label, then comes the external. So if you are specifying styles for element in inline as well as internal label as well as external, so the styles that you specify in the inline or using the style attribute of that element, that will persist, that will be visible in the browser. So this way your inline has the higher precedence over internal as well as external. Similarly, if you are defining styles for a particular element in external as well as internal, So your internal or document level has the highest precedence over the external one. Again, each has its own benefits, so we'll be using, and everyone uses the method that suits to the a particular requirement or a particular situation. And once we start doing some examples, we'll be watching how when to use which method. So yeah, that's it regarding CSS. These are just a few basics of CSS, which are helpful for styling or beautifying your presentation that is made using HTML. Next we'll be moving on to JavaScript. It's a vast one actually. So we'll start with JavaScript, we can say it is a client-side scripting language. So to start with, again I'm saying it's a client-side scripting language. It's more than that, but to start with, you can think of JavaScript as a client-side scripting language. So what do you mean by client-side scripting language? As I've said already, scripting language means client-side scripting language means scripts run on client machine, the requesting machine, or on the browser, the script that runs. So mainly JavaScript runs on browser. So whenever a client makes a request to a server, all those resources, say JavaScript, CSS, or HTML, all those resources gets downloaded from the server to the client machine, and over there the script runs. Over there in the client, in the browser only, the script runs. Okay, so going to a bit into the history, JavaScript, why it came, how it came actually. JavaScript actually, going into the history, JavaScript was developed, you can say it was introduced by Brendan Eich. He was told at that time when he created this, he was told to develop a validation program for Netscape. So, and I should stop it now. It's a different story. We start with the lomba chibuk.